Of all the flowers that are imported into the United States, and we're talking tens of thousands of tons of them, 90% come through Miami, Florida. And the Valentine season is a busy season for the U.S. Customs and Border Protection agents who are responsible for screening these flowers. They don't treat all of them like this, but they do have to rigorously inspect them. The agents are on guard against pests. Invasive species and foreign diseases could pose a major threat to the U.S. agricultural industry. If a prohibited type of bug is found, an entire shipment of flowers could be sent back to where it came from or incinerated. Hundreds of agricultural shipments can be confiscated in a month's time, so the Customs and Border Protection agents help serve as an important line of defense. Valentine's Day and bugs are topics you'll also see later in today's show. I'm Carl Azuz. Thanks for watching The World from A to Z. Next, in the ongoing war between Israel and Hamas in the Middle East, we've talked a lot about the Palestinian territory of Gaza, or the Gaza Strip. That's the place from where Palestinian militants launched a terrorist attack against Israelis that triggered the latest war. It's also where Israel has targeted Hamas for months, with many civilians caught in the crossfire. The city of Rafah is in the southern part of the Gaza Strip, near the territory's border with Egypt. More than 1 million Palestinians are there, most of them having fled to Rafah from other parts of Gaza. And in a new phase of the war, Israel is planning an assault on Rafah, saying it wants to track down Hamas militants there and free dozens of remaining Israeli hostages that Hamas took on October 7th. Israel says it has plans to evacuate Palestinian civilians, but aid agencies are concerned that if that doesn't happen, those civilians will have nowhere to go during an assault. And for its part, Egypt has indicated it will not accept an influx of Palestinian refugees. As observers watch and wait to see how this war evolves, the fighting continues.
Overflowing in long denied embraces. Just freed Fernando Marman and Luis Haar. Alive, but aged more than their 128 days held hostage by Hamas. The overnight military operation to free them, a lightning covert raid. The two men held on the second floor of an apartment building in the centre of Rafah, extracted under fire. Palestinian officials say around 100, including women and children, were killed in Rafah in the early hours Monday morning. Some in nearby strikes that the Israeli military say were to provide cover during the hostage rescue. This at a time when Rafah's 1.4 million densely packed civilians fear a coming IDF ground assault, and Israel is under huge international pressure to keep the civilians safe.
We've been preparing for these seconds, minutes, all the targets that Hamas has in this area. Headquarters, arms, infrastructures.
So you were hitting Hamas
only
targets?
Military targets of Hamas.
But civilians were killed.
Tragically, as I said, Hamas embeds himself with the civilians.
For these very relieved families, there is closure. Fernando and Luis, the last of 5 family members taken hostage October 7th, to be released. Their concern now for the others left behind.
Today's trip takes us to 2 schools on 2 opposite sides of the planet. First, in the Old Dominion state of Virginia, big hello to Mr. Mallory's and Mrs. Heideman's classes at Brookville Middle School. It's in the city of Lynchburg. And from New South Wales, Australia, a very warm welcome to Mrs. Wells' class at Sydney Grammar School. Great to have you watching from the city of Darlinghurst. On this date in world history. February 14th was a fascinating day in photographic history. The daguerreotype was a new way of capturing images in the late 1840s when James K. Polk was U.S. president, and he was widely believed to be the first sitting American leader to be successfully captured on camera. He also might have been the first to have a mullet, though John Tyler might have something to say about that. On this date in 2005, former Lebanese Prime Minister Rafik al-Hariri was assassinated in a car bombing in that nation's capital. More than 20 other people were killed in the attack. A judge later said there was no doubt it was a political act. Also on February 14, 2005, 3 young men who used to work for PayPal registered a new social media and video website. It was called YouTube, and it changed the way people shared, watched, and made videos.
World knowledge. The Parliament of Fowls, a 14th century poem about a time when birds choose their mates, was written by what author? Geoffrey Chaucer, Dante Alighieri, Christopher Marlowe, Pope Pius II. This poem, which might be the first association between Valentine's Day and love, was written by Canterbury's Tale author Geoffrey Chaucer.
Historians don't agree on who exactly St. Valentine was. One popular belief is that he was a 3rd century Roman priest who helped Christians get married in secret because that was against Roman law at the time. St. Valentine was purportedly caught and martyred for that in the year 270, but he could be someone else altogether. It's just not known. What is known is that for centuries, Valentine's Day has been associated with love, and Chaucer might have made that connection.
This year, Americans are expected to shell out a total of $25.8 billion on the Valentine's Day holiday. Just over half the people in the U.S. reportedly plan to celebrate, so the money works out to more than $185 for each of them. That's according to the National Retail Federation and the personal finance website Wallet Hub. Men tend to spend more than women by almost twice as much on Valentine's Day. But what are they spending it on? Mostly candy. 57% of Valentine's gift givers will spring for something sweet. Greeting cards, flowers, an evening out, and jewelry round out the National Retail Federation's top 5 gift categories. And while that group's survey found that 29% of Americans who aren't celebrating still plan to do something special, like go out to dinner with friends or buy something for themselves. Those who do celebrate are expected to spend a record amount on their significant others, $14.2 billion. It's been said you can't buy love and that it doesn't cost a thing. But what people spend on gifts to express it, even a single symbolic red rose, can have far-reaching economic effects.
Each year on Valentine's Day, Americans buy millions of roses for their loved ones. The majority of those are grown in Colombia, a country whose citizens don't even celebrate Valentine's Day. But the holiday is still important to them because Valentine's Day alone can account for close to 20% of the annual revenue for flower growers there. And not all roses are red. Some growers offer up to 35 different hues. Red is the most popular, hot pink a close second, but there's also white, yellow, lavender, and many different shades of pink. In Colombia's capital city, Bogota, thousands of acres of land are covered in massive greenhouses. Some are bigger than multiple football fields, and they're stuffed to the brim with roses whose stems are 7 feet long. Workers come through to cut those stems about 25 inches down from the bud. Then they're sent to chill in refrigeration rooms before they're packed with other flowers onto planes headed for the United States. The flowers' first stop is in Miami. They get loaded into hundreds of refrigerated trucks and driven to warehouses further south in Florida. From there, the flowers are shipped all over the country. And that all happens in a matter of days. Once the workers are done with that, it's just about time to start getting ready for Mother's Day.
It's a big present, and we know that we are producing flowers so that in other countries, they can use them as a gift to express love. To express friendship is something very beautiful.
But if you happen to be in the anti-Valentine's Day camp, we've got a story for you too. This is a Madagascar hissing cockroach. It's about as charming as you might describe an ex-girlfriend or boyfriend. So the Bronx Zoo in New York gives people the chance to name one of these creatures after an ex. For $15, they'll get a certificate they can give a former loved one saying that person now shares a name with a roach. The zoo says people usually do this as a gesture of love or friendship. It's a gag gift. While there aren't exactly tens of thousands of these in the zoo, at least that they know of, more than 54,000 names have been bought, raising over $1 million for the zoo and wildlife conservation. Of course, there have been some very prominent people named after roaches. I mean, consider James Monroach, Charlize Theron, Rochard Nixon, Rosemary Clooney, Franklin Roosevelt, Marocha Carey, Kurt Rochel, Roach Witherspoon, Norman Roachwell, Cristiano Rochnaldo, and of course, Dwayne the Roach Johnson. It's like the world is just crawling with him. We hope you'll continue to infest your time with the world from A to Z. I'm Cockroach Azuz, and you mean the world to me.